Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PGA Draft Cast, brought to you by WinDailySports.com. Just a quick reminder that Win Daily Sports doesn't just cover golf. They cover the NFL, the NHL, MLB, NBA, soccer, MMA, NASCAR, you name the sport. Win Daily Sports has projection models, optimizers, articles, and our famous Discord chat to cover it all. Now, if you click the promo link below and you type in Win Big or Green, you will get 1 week free of Win Daily. And then after that, it is just $5.99 per week for all of that, including some of our betting content. Now, let's get to the PGA DraftCast, where we have proven track records with Joel, Spencer, David, and myself. Let's have some fun. Get in the chat. Make sure you subscribe to the page, and make sure you hit the like button. Let's do this snake draft. Let's do the PGA DraftCast. Let's do it right now.
Hello, YouTube. Welcome into a special episode of the Win Daily Sports PGA Draft Cast, where we're not covering the PGA Tour. We're actually covering a DP World Tour event this week, which, as a non-US resident, I'm extremely excited about, to speak about some DP World Tour golfers in the biggest tournament of the week, the Irish Open. Huge tournament with great field this week, and surprisingly enough, DraftKings have come to the party. 150k tournament they're putting up, which is great to see. Let's get in there and support it. Let's fill that contest up and show them that they need to be putting higher end contests on these DP World Tour slates, because it is missing when the PGA Tour is in. And we had to bring in one of our favorite experts, the one and only Byron, aka the Model Maniac, aka Mr. Model Maniac. Byron, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing amazing. It just goes to show you how many degenerates there are out there, that the fact that the DP World Tour has these massive tournaments when the PGA is not out there, everyone's looking for action. I've got my Jets gear on. I've got my South African rugby jersey on. All my teams are going to be playing next week. It's going to be a great week. We've got the Irish Open. It's going to be a blast, bro. I'm just pumped. It's a good time to be a sports fan.
It is, although I have to question, Byron, I respect your opinions and your expertise and the in-depth research that you bring to the golf side. But, I mean, I see the Jets hat, I see the South African rugby jersey, and I pray to God that today you're going to deliver some winning golfers, because with the teams that you support, it raises a hell of a lot of questions for me.
No, it's okay, David. I think, the fact that you don't understand the trajectory of my two teams that I'm wearing right now and where they're going to be going in the future, it just shows how much an advantage that the audience and I have over you this week. So it's going to be a good week. We're looking forward to all of us kicking your ass, and it's going to be, an Irish Open ass whooping.
Yeah, well, the Rugby World Cup does kick off this week. So for you Americans who want to dabble, it's a great tournament coming up. The All Blacks, the mighty All Blacks from New Zealand, playing France in the opening game is going to be an absolute cracker. But in the golfing world this week, we've got the Irish Open, and an interesting week on the backdrop of the Ryder Cup selections that we saw from Luke Donald, obviously with his European team following the European Masters. Ludwig Aberg continues to impress. He's made an incredible start to his professional career. What do you make of the selections for the Europe team, Byron, and then the USA as well?
Yeah, I've been doing some prep and stuff for Rotoball articles that will be coming out next week, but what I've noticed is the ceiling for the Euro team is through the roof. Like if you take a look at their upside, it's nuts. It's pretty much on par with the US team, but the floor is going to be a problem. If everyone brings their B game, the US team is going to walk away with this thing. All things equal, like we know what happens over there across the pond. These Euros are just dominant. So we'll see what cooks over there, but I think I'm leaning towards the US team. I just think they're too solid, too consistent. Their floor's too high. And, I don't think all 12 guys are going to play their best golf, which I think Europe's going to have to do to beat this team. But you never know. Home ground advantage is massive over there in Europe. And I see there's some serious banter here about Rodgers and stuff. And I just want the people to know that Aaron Rodgers is going to absolutely dominate this year. The green is for the Irish Open, but also these are my teams. It's just it's a trifecta of beauty this week. So what's your opinion on the two squads there, Dave?
On the Jets and the South African
Yeah,
rugby team?
Ryder
No,
Cup.
I don't like their chances. No, in terms of the Ryder Cup, I see. Yeah, look, I was interested to see. I always suspected Justin Thomas would make the squad. I think that someone had to go out and grab it off him. Like his established partnership with Spieth. I was not surprised to see him in there because nobody really went out there and grabbed the spot. I mean, you can make a case for Keegan Bradley. I think that was the closest. Had he finished, runner-up at the Tour Championship, then maybe we're having a different conversation. He might have taken the spot off, say, Burns, for example. But saw guys like Tony Finau. I mean, beginning of this year, Tony Finau was like in the first 6 names that you wrote onto your potential USA team, and then he didn't even make the squad. So, look, I think that the Europeans feel like they had the momentum at the moment. There's a lot of great form coming in from a lot of their players. And if we look at the top sort of 8 to 9 on the European side, guys like Victor Hovland, John Rahm, Matt Fitzpatrick's come into some really good form the last few weeks. Rory McIlroy, obviously, they're very, very competitive at the top. And as you said, I think in terms of the ceiling, guys like Sepp Striker, right? Like Sepp Striker is not a world beater, but Sepp Striker can go out and shoot a 62. And that's kind of what you need with those last 3 guys of go out, have the best round of your life, go and make 8 birdies, and then see if the USA player can respond. So I think it's going to be very, very compelling. I'm excited to see what will happen. And look, we've got some of the European golfers in the tournament this week upcoming for the Irish Open. And in terms of the format of the show, if you're just joining for the first time, the PGA Draft Cast, so we use DraftKings salary for the PGA Draft Cast. We're going to live draft a 6-man DFS lineup. You need to stay within the salary cap of 50,000. You can't just go and pick all the best golfers. That wouldn't be fair. And it's a standard snake draft format. So we'll do our first 2 picks. I'm in the first slot and then Byron in the second slot. Team audience, you've got pick 3 today and you'll be picking back-to-back golfers. The way the audience picks is you name a golfer in the chat, just one golfer, and if a second person nominates it as well, that's counted as seconded and that will be the choice for team audience, and we'll go from there. So in terms of the course this week, K Club is where this is being held, hosted of actually the 2006 Ryder Cup. Has hosted the Irish Open before in 2016, but previously it's been moving around a little bit. And we do have some form as well on the DP World Tour, particularly from 1995 to 2007, hosted the European Open. When you look across those leaderboards, there's some correlations that I noticed, mainly in terms of driving accuracy. The winner of this tournament the last 3 years has led the field in greens and regulation. Approach play is very important, particularly from 125 to 175 yards. And we've never seen any golfer really go out there and dominate this course in terms of bombing. It's all about strategic ball placement, finding lots of greens, giving yourself lots of birdie looks. Typical winning score between -12 and -16 is around what we'll be looking. So it's one of the harder golf courses on the tour. Correlating courses, I really like the Brabazon course at the Belfry for the British Masters. Really narrow test with lots of water in play and tree line fairways, like you'd see here. Some good correlation across those 2 tournaments. And then, funnily enough, last week's tournament, Cransthurst year, there's some really interesting correlations in terms of those leaderboards. You've had Thomas Bjorn has performed very well at both, Lee Westwood, Colin Montgomery, but then you get into some of the more obscure names. So guys like Matthias Gromberg has won both at the European Masters at Cransthurst year and at the Irish Open at the K Club. Multiple golfers like Michael Campbell have won and then had a runner-up at the others. So some of those like obscure names like Constantino Rocca, where people are not going to be, they're not headliners like the Lee Westwoods. There's still that correlation between Cransthurst year and the K Club. So if you're looking for some guidance, those are your best 2. But Byron, let's get into it. Let's draft some teams. We're going to bring up the draft board. And yeah, as I said, I'll be taking the first pick here. And I'm going to want to go, I think, with some value originally to start with. And I have one golfer that I believe is a very good shot and provides some excellent salary relief. I'm going to forego Rory McIlroy at the top just because of the way I want to build it, but I'm not going to have any qualms when Byron obviously takes him next. So first pick for me will be Eddie Pepperell. And reasoning for that, last 3 tournaments, he's been playing very well. He had an 8th last week at Cransthurst year, really correlated course to what we're going to see here at the K Club. He also had a 3rd at the ISPS Honda World Invitational. Now, that's held at Galgorm Club, which has hosted the Irish Open before. Again, narrow, tree-lined, water in play, very correlated to here. And then at the tournament here in 2016 that hosted the Irish Open, he finished 8th there as well. So he's in very good form lately. He really looks like he can go out and spike a win at one of these bigger tournaments. And I like him at value there. You can get him at 7,800. Byron, what say you?
No, old Eddie, I think I was listening to a pod about, old Eddie. Now he's tweeting again. And when Eddie's tweeting, Eddie's playing good golf. So as long as Eddie's tweeting, I don't mind him being in a roster. So I think that's going to be a great play for you there. It's some nice salary saver at 70-something bucks. And, it's on the Euro side of things there. And I think he's going to be fantastic for you. So I'm totally on board.
Yep, definitely. He likes the old tweet. We've seen actually some interesting tweeting action between him and Lee Westwood. So if you want some entertainment and some golf drama, go and see him absolutely rip into the live golf. This is good fun. But with that, Byron, you get to make your first pick for the Irish Open lineup. Where are you going?
Yeah. So because I want to kick your butt, Dave, I'm just going to go with Rory. But I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how he comes through with ownership-wise this week, right? Because, Fitzy was around about 50% owned last week. And, Rory's obviously a much better golfer than Matthew Fitzpatrick right now. And he's only $11,400. We've seen Rory McIlroy on the PGA Tour at 12.5, 13, in certain formats. So it's kind of too much value at 11.4 for one of the best golfers in the world right now. The guys I was also checking out earlier, I think he's finished inside the top 5 in 53 or 57% of his starts in the last 12 months. So from a cash game standpoint, I'd probably roll out Rory. From a GPP, I'm curious as to what your guys' thoughts or your thoughts are on this, because what ownership is this guy going to come in at 11.4 Rory McIlroy, right? Playing in Ireland, playing on the DP World Tour in a field that's not nearly as significant as the PGA.
Definitely. I think for me, you could easily have made Rory McIlroy 12,200 in this field. There's no reason why he should be 11,400. In betting markets, he's priced at $4.50 as the odds-on favorite. He is too cheap. Objectively, he's too cheap. For me, the ownership in those situations just never reaches the level that it should, right? He'll be 45% owned, but really, I have no qualms with the back, by the way, the back injury at Tour Championship. I think if Rory McIlroy had any hint of this being a serious injury, he would not be playing this week because he's got the Ryder Cup around the corner. He doesn't need to go and risk it, right? So I think he's absolutely healthy. And in what universe do you really see Rory McIlroy finishing outside the top 10 in this tournament? Not very often whatsoever. So for me, he should be 65% owned. He'll probably come in at 50% owned, and I'd be smashing Rory in a lot of my lineups.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think there's enough randos in the DP World Tour to get different with 2-3% ownership there to kind of offset Rory's difference there. So definitely agree with you.
100%. I think if you're looking, the audience, by the way, you can get your nominations in as you're on the clock. And I've got a couple of names there, but we'll need some more nominations coming in. So chuck a name of a golfer that you would like to draft in the chat there. I think that his ownership should be a lot higher, and I believe he's a very, very good chance going in this tournament. And as you said, there's ways to get different elsewhere. If you know this course, like we said, favoring driving accuracy, for example, avoiding some of those guys who are just out and out bombers, but are inaccurate off the tee, who are going to attract a lot of ownership because they're big names. I think is a way that you can go get different, and there'll be some interesting names further down the field that you can go. Phil Mickelson's got a nomination in the chat, so I don't know if anyone's going to second that one because they might forego a few points this week if they draft Phil Mickelson. So we've got a second there for Tyrrell Hatton is their first pick, and no qualms for me on that pick whatsoever. My only question mark would be, you always enter into the realm of speculation when you speak about what players' motivations might be. Tyrrell Hatton's obviously made the Ryder Cup team, no surprises there. Do you think, how much weight do you put on, Byron, when those intangible factors where you can't statistically model someone like Tyrrell Hatton, who in 2 weeks is going to be playing in the Ryder Cup, versus his motivation coming into an Irish Open? Like, how much is he focused on winning this week, and how much is he focused on an eye on 2 weeks' time and getting his game into the right space?
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma that you can put yourself in there, because you can think, okay, it's a tune-up. These guys are just going to try and work on some shots that they're not necessarily that comfortable with, particularly maybe hitting shots that they're going to have to hit a lot more at Marcus Simone that might not suit this golf course. But also, I've played golf with a hangover many, many times, and those have been sometimes my best round, like of the month or whatever, because you just got no expectations. You're just kind of rolling out there, kind of just trying to survive the day. And I'm not saying Tyrrell's going to be hungover for 4 straight rounds, but what I'm thinking is his attention to, that anxiety, that tension that's going to be in his game, that Tyrrell can really, we've seen him, turn into the Mad Hatter and just explode, might not be there this week. And he's going to be playing on Euro soil again. I don't necessarily like him that much on the PGA Tour because he just doesn't seem to have that dominance over here. But maybe back on home soil, I think home soil, home continent, should I say, is going to be Tyrrell's chance. I don't mind that at all. I actually like him a lot. And at Marcus Simone, he's one of my favorite players. So,
yeah, very, very interesting. And I think you make a really valid point, is that we do need to remember the caliber of these fields in the DP World Tour are a lower tier than the PGA Tour. And I agree with you that we've struggled to see Tyrrell Hatton get over the line on the PGA Tour, but those tournaments are just extremely hard to win. They are really difficult to win. So to come in here to a weaker field, I think that, it's one of the studs. For me personally, I like to try and discount a lot of that chatter of like, he will be motivated, he won't be motivated. I think Adrian Moronk might come up at some point in this draft, and we can have that conversation as well. You've just really, you got to stick to the stats, and you got to stick to what you know, play the edge that you do know, and don't speculate on the motivation. And it looks like we've got a double nomination here for Sean Crocker from Zach Jeffers and Ivan. Sean Crocker, generally very long off the tee, not so accurate, but really sharp on the approach play. So for me, what I'd be hoping is that Crocker is going to club down off the tee a little bit, use his irons. It's not an overly long golf course. Keep the ball in play. We saw a 10th recently, the Barracuda Championship, which favors a little bit more of the driving accuracy as well. So he has shown that he can do that. And he had a 4th actually at Cranston this year in 2021, I can see. So some good correlations there, and obviously some salary saving there for team audience. But Byron, Model Maniac, second pick. We've got Rory, solid start, obviously. Who are we going for your second selection?
Before I take my second selection, I want to ask you a question. What do you think the winning score is going to be this week?
-14.
-14. Okay. Because that kind of changes my opinion of the situation, because I was going to roll out someone else, but I think he's more of a grinder than anything else, but we'll see how it goes. But before anyone steals my dude, I think this guy's more European than American, although he is a very Americanized and patriotic individual. But Billy Horschel at $9,000, just, he's big into the soccer, the football, over there, and tends to play some really great golf over in Europe, right? So also he hasn't played very good golf at all this year until the last 2 tournaments. And it seems like his stuff's figured out, and now he's ready to rock and roll. We've had multiple weeks since the Wyndham, and who knows where his game's even transcended to since. So he can go low enough. I think he's, when he's playing his best golf, he could easily be one of the better golfers in this field, and he's $9K, right? So that's like really affordable for this kind of a field, and the pedigree golfer that Billy Horschel can be when he's playing good golf.
I 100% agree. I do think that Billy Horschel possibly gets overlooked a little bit this week, and he's got the winning equity for me as well. We've seen it when he comes over here, particularly the BMW Championship, the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth. He's got an excellent record there. I mean, he came over last year actually and played a couple of tournaments. He finished 9th at the BMW PGA, and then he finished 10th at the Alfred Dunhill Links, a Links style course, or compilation of Links style courses as well. And saw a nice little peak for him last week on his approach play at the Wyndham Championship at the last tournament that he played in as well. So he hasn't had the greatest season, but accurate off the tee, ticks that box. Great short game as well, which is going to be important around here, and he can get pretty dialed in approach. So don't mind that pick for you whatsoever. My selections, again, I'm going to, now having saved a bit of money with Eddie Pepperell, go back up to the top of the board a little bit and grab a couple more guys up there. So Alexander Bjork for me, 9,800, extremely accurate off the tee. He's had a fantastic year. Second last week at Cranshurst year, where he's had a very, very good record as well. So that's a correlated course to here. Great putter and can get really, really hot on approach. And he's had a phenomenal year without winning. And I don't, he's one of those golfers who I think, unfortunately, maybe doesn't have the moxie on the Sunday to go and get it done, or really struggles getting over the line. But it's inevitable at some point, whether he's putting himself in these positions all the time, that he will convert a victory eventually. And then Aaron Rai, again, speaking about that step down from the PGA Tour to the DP World Tour is big. Aaron Rai's been consistently getting top 30s, top 20s on the PGA Tour. That often translates to like a top 10, top 5 on the DP World Tour. Very accurate golfer. He prefers these tighter tests where it's a bit more narrow. He can lean on his driving accuracy, tree line fairways. He's won at similar courses like that before. And he's had a lot of victories as well in tournaments where the scoring hasn't reached like that 24 under. He likes that kind of more grinding kind of score that, in this minus 12, minus 16 range that I sort of suspect will win that. Byron, what say you? Anything to say on those two selections there?
I'm a major fan of Aaron Rai lately. And I jumped on the train with Aaron a little while ago, but he showed such promise early towards like the final few tournaments of the season. And I kind of contrasted his birdie or better percentages over the season versus the last 24 rounds leading up to like the Wyndham and places like that. Like the Wyndham, that's like a perfect golf course for Aaron Rai, right? Would you say the Wyndham's similar kind of a comp to what we're going to expect this week?
I would say so. Like certainly in terms of the driving accuracy, I'd say that the penalty here for missing fairways can be a bit more significant because there's more water in play than at Sedgefield. But I don't think it's a bad course comp whatsoever. The only thing I would say with it as well is Sedgefield tends to turn into a bit of a putting contest. You got like a minus 24, minus 26 kind of winner, right? We've seen Tom Kim do that previously, then get very, very hot with the putter. That would be the only difference. But certainly in terms of the driving accuracy metrics and the approach play numbers as well, Sedgefield's a pretty decent comp for sure.
Yeah, I know. And, from Alexander, I wanted Aaron Rai to be on the Ryder Cup team. I thought that he would be a great option, but I don't think that birdie making ability is there for him right now. We need to see more of that, right? He kind of flashed a bit, but not necessarily kind of pulling through all the way. And then Alexander Bjork, I'll kind of just pass on that one. I'm not necessarily that fluent in Alexander Bjorknisms, and kind of I don't want to tell the people nonsense. So I'll just give it a pass and kind of just scoot on to my guy that I'm going to be talking about and go with Donnie van Tonda right off the bat. So Donnie van Tonda, $6,500. Would you believe it if I've actually played golf with Donnie van Tonda and beat him back home? And he's an awesome dude. And he is one of the hardest grinders you'll ever meet. If you shake his hand, you'll know exactly how he grips the golf club and where it goes, because you can feel his calluses just like forged into his hands, right? Like the golf club cannot grip the golf club any different. It's like basically a built-in hand grip in his hands, right? Like, those training aids that you have to grip correctly, his hand is that. So the club just fits right in there. He hits thousands of golf balls a week, and he is one of the hardest working dudes in the world. And now he's got his girlfriend or his wife or whatever on the bag, and he can show up at any minute. He's $6,500, and I think Donnie's a solid play for that kind of value. We've seen him pop up on the European Tour quite regularly, so I'm not entirely sure how his form's going, but this is a complete homer pick, somebody that I know personally, and I think he's going to pull through for me. The South African, we had to have one on the card, and I think Donnie's going to be the guy for me.
Yeah, I mean, in keeping with the South African rugby shirt, obviously going with the South African Daniel van Tonda with your third pick there. I would say last week that he missed the cut, but a majority of that was down to his putting. He lost a horrific number of strokes putting. And so often that is a place, though, where you can see a bit of a rebound, right? If you've astronomically missed a bunch of putts, that can often see some pretty big regression the other way. Pretty quickly as well. He was actually fifth at Marco Simone earlier this year as a matter of interest, and he's had a couple of top 30s as well at Cranshurst year. So if you're looking to save a bit of salary cap, I don't think he's your worst choice, especially in like a larger GPP. I think he could potentially enter your pool there as well. And looks like from the audience, Ivan has confirmed it.
This audience
Vincent
is giving me
Norman.
some serious foot wedge love. Yeah, I'll shot link hard and telling me I'm using the foot wedge back against Donnie back in the day there. But it was fair and square, my friend, but now things aren't quite the same. So
well, while I get these selections typed in, tell us more. How did the round of golf with Daniel and Todd actually come about?
Oh, no, we just play junior golf quite regularly. We just played together. I just, play with him on the weekends kind of thing. We go play 36 holes together. Just that's what he does, right? He just sits out there and just plays golf and he's a grinder. He's not necessarily the most talented golfer in the world, but he is just the hardest working son of a gun out there. And I think you can't really go wrong with that kind of a mentality on the tour. And I think with his dad now not necessarily in the picture as much, I think he's kind of a little less stressed out and doing his thing and playing some really good golf. So we'll see what he can get up to. Donnie's my guy, I think he's just a really good dude.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, look, I mean, I always appreciate as well the grinders. And for players like Daniel Vintonda, I'm not sure where he's ranked on the DP World Tour. I can look that up. But guys like that, I mean, we're getting towards the pointy end of the season for them, right? Like this is where if you keep your card starts getting decided, yeah, I mean, he's pretty far down on the DP World Tour rankings. So things like keeping your card, or if you're going to qualify for the DP World Tour Championship at the end of the season as well, this is the where the rubber hits the road, as they say. Yeah, you have to start producing some results. Otherwise, you're going to be going down to the Challenge Tour or going back to Q School. And, it gets pretty tough for those points to keep your cards. So in terms of the audience pick, Vincent Norman, spoiler alert, he's included in my selections this week at 45-1. I think he's a phenomenally talented golfer. Very, very good performance recently at the Barbasol, particularly, which is more of an accuracy kind of test at the King Trace Golf Club as well. So I think that there's some good correlation there in terms of what we're going to see from his game. And we know that he can stripe it, but he's that rare mix for me of not only driving distance, but also accuracy. And anytime you can get that combination together, a strong driver of the golf ball is going to go and be able to attack those par fives, get some eagles, get some birdies for you, but then also keep it in play is pretty interesting. And then Guido, I never know what to think of Guido because it's just so polar opposite. I mean, we saw his bipolar nature last tournament where he had two incredible rounds at the European Masters and two absolutely dreadful rounds. And I think that's why I like Guido, not in the cash game sense, but certainly in those larger GPPs, because he could come out here and finish second. He could miss the cut by 4 shots, and either of those is just completely viable. Which of those two, Byron, if you were going between Guido and Vincent, who would you be putting on your team?
Guido. I love what Guido can get up to. And I think the fact that he's so volatile, he can shoot a 72 and still be one of the top scorers and finishing inside the top 10 kind of situation, because he's going to shoot that 72, 73. But like we see Zach Jeffers in the chat just saying a 61 from Guido, right? And he just does that. Guido is just, isn't the guy from Cars, the mechanic, that's what Guido, that Guido is the name of that thing. And I think that's exactly what it is. You get into the pit stop, depending what tires you put on, Guido could be breaking, lap records, or he could crash. That's just how it goes. And I love that kind of philosophy from a golfer in a big GPP. Like I mentioned earlier, though, just for the three of us, it's a little bit risky, right? But I play Donnie Fontonda, so what do I really know? But there's multiple ways to approach a golfer, and I think Guido in a big GPP is a great way to go about it.
Bear in mind as well, I mean, Guido, especially with the win at the French Open, he came into conversation for Ryder Cups a little bit, and being an Italian golfer as well, held in Italy, held in Rome this year. He would have felt a lot of pressure, I believe, to try and make a tilt at making that team. And, the selections are done now. That pressure's off him. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore. And maybe that frees him up a little bit. And he doesn't have to worry about the stress of whether he's going to make the Ryder Cup or not. He can just go out and, kind of like a Tagala, kind of like a Sepp Striker, just go and rack up birdies and hopefully make the cut and get one of his ceiling performances as well. So, yes. Now you do get to make your fourth pick, Byron. Who are we going with here?
I'm going to go with Minwoo Lee. And I don't even know what the hell that does to my salary. And I'm actually going to be very curious to see what a $9,500 Minwoo Lee does to me. But if it doesn't work, yeah, we good. Okay. This dude is, he breaks my model. He's the reason I have to run a putting model, because the ball striking is scintillating and atrocious at the same time, right? His iron play is disgustingly bad. Like, to watch someone finish inside the top 10 as much as he did on the PGA Tour by losing strokes on approach. And I've always said in articles, on podcasts, approach is king. Minwoo, his approach play is min, but his driver and his putting and short game is max. And it's incredible to see. And he kind of reminds me of Cam Smith in a way, but with, the irons and drivers switched around, where I used to bet against Cam Smith all the time because his irons were bad, but the short game is just too good to pass up, right? And he just makes so many birdies. He scores so well. And I think, in a grind fest like this, to get to minus 14, I think his short game can really be up to serious contention.
For sure. I mean, looking at some of his results when he's gone back from PGA Tours to the DP World Tour, he's really thrived under these environments. I mean, third at the Spanish Open, third at the Andalusia Masters, was third at the Australian Open, second in Abu Dhabi. He had a fifth at the US Open this year as well, and he's shown up at multiple majors now. He really does have some pretty high ceiling. In terms of correlating courses, Crans-sur-Sierre, he's had a 21st before, and then at the Belfry Brabazon course, where it's that narrow chest with lots of water and tree line fairways, he's had 11th, 21st, and 15th as well. So I think Minwoo's absolutely got the ceiling. Again, I don't know if this is the best test for him, just because driving, actually, for me, I'm weighting a little bit higher than driving distance. But in saying that, you've got guys like Cameron Davis, who just absolute bombers and then come to these courses and be a little bit narrow. And, Ryan Fox made my tips this week. I don't know if I'll draft him tonight, but he made my betting tips. And it's kind of the similar of, like, he loves a hit a 2-iron off the tee, which, I mean, Zach Jeffers has just referenced as well, right? Like, he can hit a 2-iron off the tee, and people might look at the stats and be like, oh, he's inaccurate, I'm just going to rule him out of my pool. This is where, like, that background knowledge that isn't really going to show in your strokes gain data can come to the fore. So do very much like that pick there.
Yeah. And just to put a bow on that real quick, I didn't think he would be very good at, like, Colonial or Sawgrass. And there he was, right? Like, you just see him, he can take lines that not a lot of golfers can take. So even when you think you can't hit driver, he will, right? And then he can carry that water. I don't know if there's water all the way down the left, but if there's water down the left to 300 yards, that's not a problem for him, right? He can just carry that. So it's an interesting situation for sure.
Nice. Yep. No, completely agree with you there. My two picks. Now I'm going to go save a lot of money on a very old but still performing Soren Kjeldsen at 6,300. And then putting him in with another Dane, Thorbjorn Olesen as well for me at 8,100, which I think leaves me enough salary cap with what I want to do here. So Soren Kjeldsen, 6,300 is massive value for me. He should not be priced down in the lowly 6,300s. He was 13th last week at Crans-sur-Sierre. We've already spoken about the extreme correlation in the leaderboards between the European Masters and the tournaments held at the K Club back in 1905 through to 2007. The correlation was uncanny across the board, and he's got a very good record there at Crans-sur-Sierre, including a 13th. He's been a 12th there previously as well. He's always been one of those great ball strikers who has excellent approach, very accurate off the tee, both key things for me this week. But the putter can be a bit cold. And saying that, in his last 7 tournaments, he's gained putting in 6 out of 7. So he looks to be rounding into some really good form. So I like him at 6,300 this week. He's a great salary saver for your lineups. And then a bit more realistic in terms of actually having a winning chance. I mean, I certainly think with Kjeldsen, he can get you a top 30, top 20 is within the realm of possibility. But Thorbjorn Olesen can certainly go and win this tournament. Again, he was sort of on the radar for the Ryder Cup without really putting his hand up fully. He's just gained on approach for his last 4 appearances. He's a winner at the Belfry at the British Masters. He won that tournament there last year, and he was 10th around the K Club when this tournament was held here in 2016 as well. So really like his salary there at 8,100. So two pretty different picks, one down the bottom and one sort of higher to mid range. What say you, Byron, on those two selections?
You know what I love about the Euro Tour is that these old Europeaners can really show up out of nowhere and just dominate because that kind of golf allows the elderly folk to do it, right? Like PGA Tour golf is bomb and gouge for the most part. Kind of you need length, you need power, you need distance. Kelson's on the Euro Tour, right? Just doing his thing and just a little bit of veteran savvy, you know, that magic experience, touch around the greens, know how to get around a golf course, manage your emotions. Those are all the things that these old guys have. And, you know, Kelson at $6,300, like you said, he's going to be very safe. He's going to get you kind of that upper, you know, safety top 40, top 30, like you mentioned. And then just for $6,300, that's totally fine. Right. So, and then Ollison is basically like a Minwoo Lee equivalent, right?
For sure. And let the record show, ladies and gentlemen, that I said Søren Kjeldsen was old, but Byron said he was elderly. Now, Søren Kjeldsen is only 48, okay? So before we start getting cease and desist letters, he's not elderly, but he is quite old. But with this track here, I think he can come out and perform.
We'll go with relatively elderly and leave it at that because...
Yeah, he's not coming out with a Zimmer frame or anything on the first
No.
day.
I would love to see old Matt Kuchar versus Søren Kjeldsen in a fisticuffs, but that's for another day.
Yeah, I think you should put that forward to the DP World Tour as like an intro to your next tournament. Byron, 2 picks ago, you've got 6,800 on average for those 2 picks. Who are you going here with your 5th selection?
I'm gonna try free up some space to get me into the 7K range, barely, and roll with an elderly folk called Luke Donald. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he is the Ryder Cup captain for Europe. And if you're talking about, I did a little look-see and saw what I could kind of get a grip on and took a look at good shot rates across all distances, out of the rough, out of the fairway. Luke Donald led the freaking PGA Tour in good shots, you know, like where you gain over half a stroke on a single shot. He's been his whole life, man. Like he's such a quality ball striker with the irons. And like you mentioned, yeah, the distance isn't going to be that ideal for him, you know, but accuracy is okay. He's fine there. He's $6,500 and he's one of the world's best iron players. He's also a Ryder Cup captain. And I feel like now that that's behind him, he's kind of just doing that same thing. Like I mentioned with Tyrrell, you know, where the expectations aren't there for him to play well, but he could stumble into a top 20 at $6,500, right? Like we've seen this kind of stuff happen. He had a T22 at the Wyndham and, you know, the ball striking is great with the irons and the putter seems to have found itself a little bit lately. So he was struggling with that last year and now it seems to have found itself. So sign me up for old Lukey. Fun fact about Luke Donald, I actually had him call my sister one time while she's one of the biggest fans of Luke Donald and his caddy was always just so nice to her when we watch him in South Africa. She was sick, standing next to the driving range. I handed him my phone. I said, my sister's your biggest fan. Can you just tell her to get better? And he said, yeah, Candy, please get better. I'll see you out tomorrow. And it made her day. You know, like, who gets a phone call from Luke Donald while you're on your deathbed, you know? And no, she wasn't on her deathbed. She was just a little bit sick, but very cool stuff. I got a story for everybody. That's what I like about the European Tour. I don't have these close connections with the guys on the PGA, but lots of fun stuff from back home on the Euro Tour side of things.
That is awesome. And I mean, linking into the fact now you've said Søren Kjeldsen's elderly and you've said that your sister was nearly dying. We're seeing where Byron's rolling at the moment. But yeah, look, my only question with Luke Donald would be this. And again, it's a little bit of speculation because I don't have good ownership numbers. But with the Ryder Cup just around the corner, how much do people gravitate to the fact that Luke Donald's the Ryder Cup captain and his name's in the press a lot and they're hearing a lot about him? Do you think that drives up his ownership numbers, or do you think people go, actually, he's not even focused on this. He's thinking, I'm captain in 2 weeks and I don't even care if I make the weekend. Actually, I kind of hope I don't make the weekend because I want to be focused on getting Team Europe another victory in the Ryder Cup.
I'd go with the latter. That's why I picked him. You know, I wouldn't agree with you that he's going to be playing, you know, a popular route. Why would you bet on a guy that's got paperwork and red tape and people coming at him for leaving Maronk off the team? You know, like death threats. This is getting a dark part. You leave everyone else off, just you and me, Dave, and all of a sudden things are getting. My sister's on her deathbed, and I've calling old people old, and it's like I've been saying over here. We've got some tough times going on, but such is the Euro Tour, the DP World Tour, and I think old Lukey's going to be really under-owned, and at that kind of ownership and price, I think I'm totally cool with that, with having Rory in my roster.
Nice. Excellent. Well, look.
What do you think?
Audience, you've got 2 selections to come. We've seen names, Rosner, McKibben, Alex Fitzpatrick, Loughton, no seconds yet. So I've got a couple in there that I would lean towards, but we'll give the audience kind of another, you've got like 10 seconds to get a name in. So chuck something out there, otherwise I'll start picking one of those names for you. Certainly one of those that I don't like as much as the others, Rosner it is, which frustratingly for me, I have exactly the salary that I would have used for an Anton Rosner. So obviously I like the pick. The audience have snatched that one from under me. And now look, you just watch this, audience, okay? I'm going to take it calm, cool, and collected. I'm not going to throw my toys like a Spencer and say that my whole draft has been ruined. But certainly I do like Antoine Rosner this week. I think he's got good upside. He has gone out, and he's one of those golfers, he'll go out and win you a tournament, or he'll go and miss the cut, but he's a strong driver of the golf ball, long, accurate. He's coming off 3 top 25s in a row. Really good approach play as well, and the putter looks like it's heating up a little bit. He's at a 4th, 13th, and a 24th at Crans-sur-Sierre as well. So some nice correlations there to one of the key comp courses that you should be using for your guidance. So salary-wise, he is 8,700, which leaves you 7,800, and I think that Loughton is too expensive, who got a second. So we are going to need. We've got Alex Fitzpatrick, I think, is also over. So, audience, you've got 7,800 left. You need a golfer, and yeah, like Zach's saying, Spencer needs this for 4 drafts. He needs the warm up on my tilting to get into action once we hit the PGA Tour full contests. And while we're waiting for the next pick at 7,800, I would say make sure that you tune in next week, earlier time, okay? Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, because for the BMW PGA Championship, we're going to have a very special guest, the one and only Sir Ben Coley on the show. Ooh. The absolute, for me, my idol in terms of betting content. He is one of the best free providers of golf tips in the market. He is incredibly sharp. He's also just a very, very nice guy. He is going to be coming onto the show next week, BMW PGA Championship, 5 p.m. So put that 5 p.m. Wednesday into your diary. Make sure you're subscribed and got the bell on, because that is going to be a cracker of an episode. Earlier start time, because he is beaming in for us very kindly from the UK, there on the ground where the BMW PGA Championship is going to be held at Wentworth. And looks like the final pick is in, and that is, correct me if I'm wrong, audience, but I believe that it's Kawamura, yes. Which I really like for a couple of reasons. First, you're going to be leaving a ton of salary on the table, and this is the kind of tournament where I have no problem with that whatsoever, because DP World Tour, I mean, how much difference is there between some of these guys post in the high 6Ks and some of these guys post in the mid 7s? Like, there isn't that much difference between the quality of those golfers. So first, love that you're going to be different with $900 saving. Second, Kawamura, huge upside, very accurate golfer. His approach play is really coming on lately. He is an excellent putter. 8th last week at Crans-sur-Sierre. Fantastic pick. Really like that one there. How about you, Byron? What say you?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to bull crap about not knowing exactly who's who on these things. And Masahiro Kawamura is someone that I'm not necessarily very familiar with, but it sounds like he's a great course fit. I was taking a peek at Rosner's stats, and boy, oh boy, that's quite a nice little looking profile for someone that's less than $9,000. So the consistency you're getting from Rosner there, I think I can really put a little testament to there on from my side. So I kind of like the audience's vibe right now, and the guys and Ed saying that Ben Cody's second to only me as one of the the premier guests on the show. So I really appreciate Ed saying the wonderful things over there for me. He is a Jets fan, so that may be why he is saying those things. But no,
and absolutely have to agree. We the reason we have you on so often, Model Maniac, is because you are one of the best in the business, and we're just absolutely stoked every time that we have you in, because your insights are excellent, particularly for golf, not so much for the NFL and rugby. We can move on from there, though. And you have got your final pick for the PGA Draft Cast Irish Open edition, 7,100 left, and where are we going to be spending those dollars?
Yes. Before I get there, I just want to give MD in the chat a massive shout out. This Phil Mickelson still being available it's so like I was laughing so hard at this. This is so funny. It's just hilarious. He's in the wing there. Is he going to be showing up as a last resort alternate? That's going to be fantastic stuff. So thanks, MD.
Sorry, Phil. We've run out of time.
Yeah.
Byron, go with your next pick.
I'm going to leave $0 on the table and go with Tristan Lawrence, another South African guy, another guy that's actually played a lot of golf with my sister back in the day. Just kind of going with guys I know personally. I think that's just going to be how we're rocking and rolling this week. I know about half the team, and off we go. So Tristan's obviously won the BMW a little while ago, and shows up, shows down, does what he wants. He's not very consistent, not very, reliable. I love how I started off with, okay, Rory and Billy, I want, playing only against the two of you guys, and off we go. I'm going to play a nice little safe and secure format, and then off we go with Donnie van Tonda, Minwoo Lee, and Tristan Lawrence. So kind of changed my things up a bit to a bit more of a GPP situation, but I like what Tristan can get up to from an up and down situation. The guy's obviously won on the Euro Tour, and he's won multiple times, I think, back home. So everything he does is just great, and he's also quite affordable at $7,100 for a Euro Tour winner.
Yeah, look, I really like the Tristan Lawrence play, and I like the way that your lineup is rounded out. As you said, you've got some safer plays, the Rory McIlroys and Billy Horshells and Minwoo Lees, and then Tristan Lawrence, actually, he won at Cransfirst year last year, so there's some very good correlation there for the K Club, and he's got that upside as well, and he's got a very good record at Crans, and then the British Masters, he's got 2 top 40s there at the Brabazon course, at the Belfry as well. So certainly got a lot of upside there. I think you could do a lot worse at 7,100 than Tristan Lawrence. Certainly can go up, and when his putter is hot, man, he can win some tournaments, and he's a closer. He's a closer, like the opposite of Alexander Bjork, who's constantly in contention and never gets over the line. Tristan Lawrence, when he's there, he gets over the line. He gets the job done, and I really like that aspect for him.
Yeah. Love that. And I think we could almost make that same comp. I'm just going to bring in Ludwig Aberg into the mix here a little bit. From a just a Ryder Cup perspective, I was very concerned about the fact that he couldn't really handle the big moments. Every time he got himself Thursday, Friday, guys inside the top 5, Saturday clunker, or played well through Saturday, Sunday clunker, right? Just one round per tournament, couldn't get it done, and then kind of found himself in a perfect spot to rattle off 5 birdies and win the tournament last week. So who knows what kind of confidence he's going to be riding off now, right? And I heard someone saying pair him with Rory. Imagine those two together. That would be just an absolute, probably two of the best drivers of the golf ball on the planet. And then you put Scotty Scheffler in that foursome, and then boy, oh boy, are we looking at a driving masterclass. But complete tangent there. Just wanted to put that out there. I think that's a really fun little dynamic.
I agree. I think that Ludwig Aberg is the most exciting prospect in golf from the Europeans since Victor Hovland and John Rahm. And what he did last week, 4 birdies in the last 5 holes, was a clinic. It was so clutch. And I love that pairing with Rory McIlroy. I hope that's what they roll with. I think you do need to pair him with someone experienced who's just going to be able to calm him down a bit and, relax some of those first tee nerves, just get him into the tournament. And with the Rory McIlroy comp as well, just in terms of his driving distance and power off the tee, I think that they're going to match up really nicely in terms of complementing each other's game. So that's a nice pairing to look at potentially as well. And finally, my last pick, I'm going to go with a bit of safety here. Thomas Dietrich at 8,600. I would have gone Antoine Rosner, if we're talking about people who cannot get over the line, like Thomas Deaton is like the epitome of that. He is going to finish like no higher than 4th, but I do expect that he's going to make the cut. Data Golf currently give him a probability of 70% of making the cut. He's a strong driver of the golf ball, great on approach. He can really show up these tournaments. Is he going to win the tournament? No. Is Alexander Bjork going to win the tournament? Probably not. But with that, I've got Eddie Pepperell and Torbjorn Olesen with the upside. And I think that I've got a strong lineup, which is fitting that narrative in terms of driving accuracy and approach players who are all going to find the cut, hopefully get me a 6-6, and hopefully someone can go out there and spike a victory. And I kind of like that from a GPP angle.
Yeah, GPP for sure. I don't know about Dietrich in a GPP though, right? Like I think, I don't know. I guess if you do put those upside guys in there, I think I'd probably play Dietrich in a bit more cash. But holy cow, dude. Talk about a guy that's just inside his own head. It's just, holy dude. Like I had him in a Rainmakers lineup that was making some serious cash at the Valero Texas Open. And then he had that round on Saturday where it just, he hit a shank and then out of nowhere, I think shot an 82 or something. And it just went balls to the wall bad. And it was just really, really bad stuff from him. And since then, it's been pretty tough, but he's kind of made a bit of a bounce back. And I don't think he's had a top 10 on a normal PGA Tour event for someone that's like as talented as he is. It's just interesting, Dave, how these guys can be so talented, but they just don't have that X factor, right? And then there's other guys that aren't nearly as talented, but are great competitors. So he's basically the equivalent of a Taylor Montgomery. But anyway, I don't mind Dietrich at all.
It is. It's interesting, right? And there's no strokes gained mental fortitude, right? Like there's no tangible way to measure that, but it does happen. You know, you get these golfers who just can't close, and they can statistically jump off the page, but you do at the end of the day need something to get across the line. And look, I like the fact I've got a mix of some high upside guys here with Kjeldsen and Olesen and Pepperell can go out there and really spike. I mean, Bjork I do expect will get over the line. He has won before, whereas Dietrich has never won. But Dietrich I do expect will be there for Saturday and Sunday. And that was really what I wanted with that final pick. Although in saying that, I would have liked to have had the extra $100 spend to get Antoine Rosner, had the audience not very meanly taken him from me with their final 2 picks. So I will take down the draft board and we will start to look at our first round leaders. Now, Byron, I don't know if you've got these ready or not, so I can kick off.
You go first. I'm pulling them up right now. Yeah.
You pull them up. So I have got 2 that I'm going to give up, and they're both going out very early, second group out. First for me, spoken about in this show as well, Eddie Pepperell. You can get him at 71 to be your first round leader. Definitely has the outside to go out there and shoot a really low round. Has the second tee time, 7:40 a.m., which I really like. It's going to be calmer in the morning, per usual, and a bit softer as well. So I hope he can go and rack up some birdies for us. And then also going off at 7:40, but off the 10th tee was Vincent Norman. I've spoken already about him and the ability that I believe he has, but unlike in the win market he's 45 to 1. In the first round leader market, he's 55 to 1. And I really like that number that I'm able to get him on there. So Vincent Norman, 55 to 1 to be your first round leader. If you want to go Rory, I don't mind whatsoever. I think that's some generous odds out there for him being first round leader, but I'll give out those 2 selections as my pick there. Byron, what say you? Where are we looking for a first round leader?
It's not often you see a guy with 40 to 1 odds to, what you said, win the tournament, and then it goes backwards for first round leader, which is, it's interesting, right? Like usually it's the other way around, but anyway, that's a nice little savings you got over there. I'm going to roll out Billy Horschel at 45 to 1. I think he's a great first round play. Aaron Rye at 40 to 1. I know Sia's out there smiling somewhere. And then, I think you got to go with my boy Donnie. I think wherever his name is, I don't even know what his actual current situation is. Let's take a quick peek here. Donnie van Tonder.
150 to 1. Daniel van Tonder.
Sign me up for Donnie. Let's rock and roll him out there, and then throw Guido out there at 70 to 1 as well. Why the hell not? I think that's a great little spike play there at 70 to 1. All pretty long, lengthy numbers, and I'm sure you can find better ones out there. These are the only ones I see.
Actually, I don't mind that Guido 80 to 1 with MGM at the moment for first round leader, and he's on the first tee time out in the morning. I quite like that a lot. I like that a lot, actually. I might join you in backing the 80 to 1 winner. Byron, who has South Africa got first round of the Rugby World Cup? Who have you guys playing first?
I've no idea. I
look
just
at
know
this.
I just know we're going to win. That's all.
He's
I'm
just on the bandwagon. He's just got the jersey. Doesn't even know when his team's playing. He's a bandwagon fan. They're playing Scotland. Actually, is the correct answer. They'll be playing Scotland on the 10th of September coming up. Byron, Irish Open, very exciting. But before we close, I want an answer from you. Ryder Cup, who is winning? Team USA, Team Europe, and why?
If I get a Team USA at plus 100, I'm pulling the trigger on that bad boy immediately. I think, like I said earlier, I took a look at those upside and floor. Team Europe has to play their best golf in order to win this tournament, whereas USA can bring their B game and still sneak away with a win. So that's my reasoning. I know they're on away soil. Geez, 30 years is a long time to not win in a certain continent. At some point, that streak has to break. I think, after dominating 2 years ago at Whistling Straits or wherever they were, it's about time, right? They got pretty much the majority of that same team back out there again, that vibes. That's the reason why they got JT. And hopefully that's going to be the reason they win, because I think ZJ's put himself out there to really get Zach to JT on the squad. It's a win now type mentality, right? Like, it's like, we've got this guy, the vibes, the team chemistry, the locker room stuff. JT's there. I'm going to be betting against JT quite often, but hopefully, he kind of takes care of business there for Speedy on that side of things. Who do you have?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess those two pairings, right? Like, they could either be electric or just go out there and really struggle, and we'd never really know how those two are going to marry up. But
because they've been playing badly, both of them.
Both of them, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe they could both encourage each other and
Exactly.
give each other a bit of spark when they're back in that familiar environment. For me, I tipped Europe early July at $3.10. They've obviously come down massively now. They're only $2.25. And that for me was really the emergence of Ludwig Aberg. Once I got kind of that last spot sealed up in that team for me, or what I expected this European team to look like, which was basically all the same as what we saw. I think I had Maronk there would have been the only change. But for me, Aberg making this squad really just ties it all together at the bottom end. And I do agree that the USA should be favorites. They should rightly be favorites. But when we had them at $3.10 and,
yes,
and USA was like $1.40, something.
What is $3.10, Dave? Sorry. What is that?
$3.10 plus 210.
Okay.
Plus 210 to win. I mean, now they're plus 125, right? So they've really come down in the market. In fact, I mean, for our Win Daily followers who got on at $3.10, they can even now bet USA and a tie, and you're actually already going to guarantee yourself a 5% profit if you don't want to let the bet ride. So that's always nice when you can lock it in and have a victory without even worrying about who actually wins. But yeah, I think Europe has the momentum. They've got the home soil. I agree with you. If the USA gets out to be an underdog, or even gets up to like a minus 105 or like a minus 110, I think that they're a better bet. I think that Europe's probably come into about the right price now. So super excited to see how that goes. Super excited next week. Reminder, Ben Coley, BMW PGA Championship, Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And Win Daily Sports in development now, behind the scenes. A new website is coming very, very soon. It looks sick. So make sure that you are over following us at Win Daily Sports, that you're following the main man at the Model Maniac on Twitter/X, and myself at Deep Dive Golf, David Bileski. Byron, have we forgotten anything for the show today?
I was taking a peek for the easy button. I actually have one somewhere floating around my house, and I wanted to honor Joel to that one, but I don't know where it is. I should have actually been more prepared, but I've had a great time, Dave. Thank you so much. And I don't think we've forgotten a single thing apart from, I don't know.
The easy button we did forget, and I will agree on Guido, is our easy button at 80-1. That is incredibly easy. But the correct answer, sports.